What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Gameball with your host, Matson Montilla. Today, joining the show, we have national champion Isaiah Reid. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How about you?
Doing well. So I know it's been about 4 months since Clemson won the national championship, but have you kind of set in that you are a national champion, that you won Offensive Player of the tournament? Has that kind of set in yet?
Yeah, it's set in a little bit, but it's kind of hard to really think about it because we're already starting to prepare for the next season. But it's definitely at the back of my mind.
Definitely, definitely. But what was that whole moment like when you won the national championship and you're on top of the entire college soccer world?
Yeah, it was a crazy feeling. Obviously, something I've never felt before, but just to be able to say that we're the best college team in the nation was insane. And after the game, it kind of felt like we just won a big tournament. It didn't really feel like we were the national champions. It was just kind of like a weird, like surreal feeling. But after a month, it really felt amazing.
Mhm. Definitely. Well, specifically focusing on that Washington game, that was your game to have. You scored two goals, the only two goals of the game. But what was going through your mind during both those goals?
So, I mean, the first goal, 27 seconds in, I was just trying to stay on the front foot and I was pressing the goalkeeper and then he whiffed it. And I was like, oh my God, like, there's no way this is happening. And I was like, can't miss it. And so when I score, I was like, this is like crazy. We're up 1-0, like within 30 seconds. And then the second goal, like, in soccer, when you already score one goal, you kind of get that confidence. So you like try different things because, you just feeling yourself and the ball came in. I was like, I'm just going to try and head it. And it went in. And I was like, this is insane. Two goals in 15 minutes.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, talking about that second one for sure. You said that you headed it from like what 10 yards out. That's not an easy task to do. Like I'm surprised you didn't take a volley. So was it just that confidence that you had after the first goal to say why not?
Yeah, 100%. Like on another day, like I'm probably going to chest it down and volley it or something like that. But, I was feeling myself, it was the natty. So I was like, might as well try and go for the header and, it paid off.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I mean, you also had some good celebrations to go with it. I was talking to Ben Erkins, and he said, "Hey, ask Isaiah about his celebrations. So, do you plan them out beforehand, or what goes through all these celebrations?"
Yeah, yeah. I planned them out beforehand, hoping that I'm gonna score that day. But I was practicing like the little chef's kiss, throw the pot one before the game. And when I scored, I was like, all right, I gotta hit it. But usually I practice my celebrations before, whether I make one myself or like I see one on TikTok or something like that.
Definitely. So the whole tournament in itself was obviously not an easy task. You played three three top 10 teams. You play obviously number one Oregon State and number four Notre Dame. Those were incredible games too. But what was an entire tournament like, and how did the team kind of keep its confidence, especially coming into it after not winning the ACC championship?
Yeah, I think we really had that purpose and that fuel after the ACC championship to really drive us. And I think the leadership of the team was what really drove us, to win the whole thing. People like George Marks, Oscar Agron, James Brighton, Charlie Cincio, all those guys. And if you look at the run of our tournament, we weren't really winning games by a big margin. We won the first game, by a goal, second game in extra time, Kentucky in the last second of the game. And if you look at the score line, you're going to be like, Clemson's barely sliding by. I even remember that, during the tournament when they were predicting the seeds and he was going to go through and they thought that Kentucky was going to upset us. But, the resilience of our team, just the resolve to be able to do hard things, it was amazing. And we went to Oregon State, flying all the way across the country to play the number one seed. I mean, that's like the hardest thing you can do in college soccer. And when we won that game, we were like, all right, we're going to go ahead and win it. There's nothing that we can't do now.
Well, do you think that Oregon State game was kind of like the defining moment of saying like we're meant to be here, like we're supposed to be here?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, anytime you beat the number one seed, you're going to feel that. But being able to do that, like in the conditions, it was like a cold, rainy night, Oregon, number one seed. Like the first part of the game, like I'm not even going to lie, they were absolutely, playing us off the park. They were really putting the pressure on us. But, we stayed strong, held them to one goal. And we won that game in PKs. That was the turning point. That was like, we can win the whole thing now.
Definitely. Well, bringing up the PKs, you had to obviously kick one of those you scored to take the 4-3 lead, and that was the go ahead goal because then obviously George Marks saved the next one on Oregon State to win it. But what was going through your mind when you're like, okay, I can kind of put this to bed if I score here?
Yeah, before the game, I was a little bit nervous. I'm not gonna lie. But we had trained PKs all the time, and growing up, I wasn't a big PK taker. I kind of hated PK shootouts. I was never really up for the nerves and all this stuff. But I talked to the coaching staff. I'd been training them, and I was like, this is my time now to kind of like get over something that I kind of had a fear of before. And when I stepped up, I had no nerves. I knew I was going to score before I took the shot, and so it was just a good feeling being able to score that PK.
And you mentioned a little bit earlier that this team had a lot of leadership in it, a lot of leaders in the clubhouse. But Coach Noonan also had to kind of be a leader as a coach, especially after losing three top players to the MLS draft before this year. So how did he kind of help coach you guys through this year and say like, yes, we lost those guys, but we can still do this?
Yeah, he really just instilled the Clemson standard, which is kind of just giving your best and next man up. That's pretty much what it was. And even though we lost the players and some of the personnel that were really good for us, the standard and the way that we played stayed the same. And so that's when you saw players like Moha, players like me, stepping into forward roles after losing Kamarni and Grayson, and other midfielders like Alvaro and other people stepping in when we lost Mayaka. Those players left, but the way that we played stayed the same. And so that's what coach always taught us. And so the transition was very smooth, and we were able to adapt to losing some really key players.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess you did make the right decision picking soccer over playing the drums as a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was reading an article that kind of said that growing up, you wanted to either play the drums or you want to play soccer. Your parents said you had to pick one or the other. Your brother kind of influenced you to want to play soccer. But, what went into the decision of that? Like, was your brother your biggest influence on wanting to play soccer?
Yeah, my brother, he's everything to me. He's my biggest influence. He's my role model. He's everything. And when I was playing the drums, like I had a passion for playing the drums, but nothing felt better than going out to my older brother's soccer game and watching him play, because he was such a role model for me that I was like, I want to be like him.
Mhm.
And so when it came down to the decision of having to play soccer, choose to follow drums and stuff, I just, looked up to my brother and I was like, I want to follow in his footsteps. I want to be like him. Soccer is what I love. And so that's what I ended up choosing.
So who's better between the two of you or your brother?
My brother's going to say me. I'm not going to say because my brother's the one who taught me everything I know. So I'm going to give all the credit to him, but he would definitely say that I am. But, I give all the credit to my brother.
Yeah, for sure. So when you first started playing, I guess, soccer, at one point you were 6 years old and you played on U19. How did you make that jump? Like, that's like a 3-year difference. And, you're 6. It's not like you're like 18 playing with 21-year-olds, So what was that jump like for you?
Um, it wasn't too bad necessarily because I just wanted to play the game. And, I mean, I kind of just had, my parents would say I kind of had this natural talent to where like I kind of just fit in with like all the other 8 and 9 kind of. Growing into it, I was a pretty small kid growing up, so it was a little bit of a struggle adapting to a little bit of the physical side of the game. But 8 and 9 year olds, they're not really trying to like body you off the ball or do anything like that. So it wasn't too bad. And so at that age, it's kind of just like about technique and that stuff.
Well, with soccer, I feel like it has to like go play professional or play in college. I feel like it's a lot different of a path than most sports where like in football, you just kind of go and you play high school. If you're good, you'll get recognized. With soccer, you have to go to all these clubs. You play Discovery's Club and then Charlotte Academy to kind of get your name out there. But how did those two programs help you grow?
Yeah, I would definitely say going a little bit back to when I started playing when I was 6 years old. Discovery Soccer Club, I think it had 12 teams, like in the whole entire club, boys and girls, when I first started out. So it was a small club, and as I kept playing, like it started getting a little bit bigger. But I'd say that they developed me technically, just developing the fundamentals of my game. But like you said before, I needed a little bit more exposure if I really wanted to try and make it to the collegiate level and get some, national team and pro look. So when I moved to Charlotte Soccer Academy, playing in that league called the Developmental Academy, national team scouts, D1 scouts, anyone you can think of, you're always playing in the eyes of, those high caliber coaches. So that's what really helped me to, really make it to the next level by playing at an academy like that.
Mhm. And I guess another key part is going to camps and kind of putting your name out there. And you came to a Clemson camp when you were younger. I mean, you committed to Clemson when you're like a sophomore in high school, I believe. So, what was like the whole decision process of wanting to commit so early, but were teams or I guess college expressing interest into you at such that young of an age?
Yeah, so it was actually my right after my freshman year of high school, my freshman summer going into my sophomore year. And my dad and I were like, we need to think about colleges now. And I was like, oh crap, like I'm getting to that age, like the recruitment process back in the day really wasn't till like your junior year, kind of end of sophomore year. So I really just went to the Clemson soccer camp just to get my name out there and like have fun. And so Clemson, Wake Forest, and NC State were my top three at the time. And after playing that one academy season, I got called into a national team camp. And so the UVA coach was looking into me a little bit as well. But I was thinking about NC State because that's where my dad went, Wake Forest as well, and then Clemson because it was in state because I live in Rock Hill. And so I wanted to stay in the ACC. And when I went to the Clemson camp, I ended up playing well. The coaches talked to me, they liked what they saw. And so I came on that visit at the beginning of my sophomore year. And when I came on campus, I was just like, all right, like there's nowhere else I want to go. Like I could do the recruitment process, but I mean, Clemson, it's in state. It's close to home. I didn't want to go too far from home. I know a lot of my friends are going to be here, and it's got everything I want. And it felt like that home family environment. So I didn't want to go anywhere else. So I just committed really early.
I mean, you brought it up yourself. You said you want to kind of stay close to home, but do you think if you weren't from Rock Hill, you might have explored other places more?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I wasn't from Rock Hill, say anywhere else, I definitely would have explored other places. I mean, any kid's dream who's a soccer player, or most kids' dream, is to play in the ACC. I mean, it's the best college soccer conference by far. So any ACC team, I definitely would have, tried to aspire to play at. But it was just more convenient that being Rock Hill, being one of the in-state guys, trying to go to a college that in my state.
Well, I think it all works out. I'm sure. I think Clemson fans can say that they're very thankful that you decided to come here. But a defining moment, I mean, it could have been a defining moment in your career was I was reading an article. You're about 15 years old, and you were playing for Charlotte Academy at the time, and you end up going for the tying goal. You end up scoring 1-1, but you injured your leg, and you kind of just were on the ground. What was that moment like for you? And can you kind of talk about that some more?
Yeah, that was it was a really bad moment. I broke my leg on that play at the tibial tuberosity. I had to get immediate surgery, and I was bedridden for a month. Couldn't move or anything, and the recovery was like 6 months. And just that kind of showed, I gotta prioritize taking care of my body, and it could be my last game, playing soccer. And so I kind of developed this true appreciation for the game. And so when I came back, it was the second semester of my sophomore year. My first game back was April 30th, and I got injured on December 5th. So it was a long way coming back. But after that game, April 30th, I worked my way back into it, did rehab, and I had this appreciation for the game and this hunger to really succeed. Because when I got injured, it was right after I committed, and I was like, I don't know, like, what are the coaches going to think about me? And from that moment on, from April 30th, I just worked extremely hard to, really put myself in a position to, be successful here at Clemson.
Mhm. I mean, what was like, kind of going through your mind throughout it all? Were you ever thinking like, man, I might not play soccer. Maybe I don't want to play again. Just, what was happening with that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. When you have an injury that puts you out for so long, you start thinking about other things. Like, do I, as a sophomore, I'm like, okay, now I need to start thinking about what I'm gonna do as a career. And if I go to college, I want to make sure I'm going to a college that I want to go to, even if I didn't play soccer. And that's why, I felt, good about going to Clemson, because even if soccer didn't end up working out, injury, kind of hit me, I knew that I still want to go to Clemson as a regular student. So that was definitely reassuring. So that definitely helped me out through the rehab process.
Mhm. I mean, did you even know that you scored the goal and tied it up?
No, I didn't. So I mean, I shot the ball, and I couldn't see anything, and I felt the pull of my leg, and I was just like, oh, and I just fell on the ground, and I heard everyone cheering, and I was like, and my teammates ran over. They're like, come on, let's run to the corner flag, let's celebrate. I was like, I literally cannot move off the ground, and they thought like, I was just like on the ground being dramatic, a little something, and I was like, no, like I really think my leg is broken. And the physio came out on on the field. But yeah, I definitely had no idea that I scored.
I mean, hey, you tied the game. That was a great moment. I mean, I know you obviously injured your leg, so that's not obviously phenomenal, but you're always coming in clutch for the teams, no matter what.
Yeah.
You cared a lot about Rock Hill, and you care a lot about giving back to your community because it kind of made you who you are as a person. But why do you care so much about your community?
I care so much because, as I mentioned before, with Discoveries when it had only 12 teams, playing soccer in Rock Hill, that area, it was, a little bit tough in terms of, getting scouted and, getting looks and things like that. And, I want to be able to give back to the game, especially in my area. So kids will have opportunities that I didn't have when I was younger. And I have so much pride coming from Rock Hill because not many people, who are actually, from Rock Hill have, made a name for themselves in soccer. You see areas that are hotbeds for soccer like New York, Florida, California, Texas, but I really want the Rock Hill area and the Charlotte metropolis area as a whole to be like, yeah, there's soccer players in this area. We're gonna give them a look, and things like that. So I definitely take a lot of pride in being from Rock Hill, and when I'm older, I just want to continue to grow the game in the Charlotte area and give more kids opportunities to be successful.
Yeah. I mean, right now through the Tiger Impact, I believe you're kind of working with the Boys and Girls Club of Rock Hill. But even going back to when you were younger, you organized a camp, Dream Chasers, and you were doing a ton. So how was that instilled to you like at such a young age to say, I still want to give back to my community as much as I can?
Yeah, I don't know. I just always had something in me because I just love the game so much. I want to be able to share it with other people as well. And so, my mom was talking about, might as well do like a nice little nonprofit, camp for the Boys and Girls Club because she knew someone who worked there. And so that's kind of how it started off. We did it 2 years in a row. And I've always had, thing for, sharing the game with people. Even in third grade, I haven't like told many people this, but I created my own soccer tournament at my elementary school for during recess time. Organized the tournament, got the brackets, and then at the end, I gave all the kids trophies for first, second, and third place. So at a young age, I've always been about sharing the game of soccer with other people, and it's kind of came along my whole journey and, until now. I can do it in college as well.
Well, that's awesome to hear. Obviously you want to have a career after college with soccer, possibly go to the MLS, go play professional somewhere. But maybe after that, do you want to just be able to kind of, like you said, come back to the Charlotte area, come back to Rock Hill and grow soccer more than ever?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. After hopefully I'll get to play pro. If not, in terms of a career, something with soccer in the Charlotte area. Or right now, I'm an intern for the university for social media. So I run the social media accounts for Clemson. And within the communications field, I'd want to be interested in being a communications manager, or being doing content with like maybe Charlotte FC or any other MLS franchise. Just any way possible to be around the game and help bring people around the game. So
For sure. Well, bringing up someone else that I believe was a big influence in your life was Manfred Maker. And I've read that he goes to a lot of your games still. He supports you. But how is he a big influence in your life?
yeah, I mean, Coach Manfred, he's one of the best coaches I've ever had. I had him at a very young age through my U10 through U12 stage, which is very important as a soccer player. That's kind of the age where you're starting to develop athletically, but also that's when the technique is going to really come in because it's going to take you to the U13 age group. That's when you start playing 1v11. And so I had Coach Manfred there, and he taught me everything. Not just about the game, but about being a human as well, humility, sacrifice, working with the team. He taught me all those qualities. And it's just so nice now that I can be able, I can play college, ball. And he lives around the Raleigh area. So anytime we're playing against like Duke, Chapel Hill, anyone, he's always trying to make it out to a game. And that just kind of shows the man that he is, that, he cares about his players, even after, he doesn't coach them anymore. But that dude taught me almost everything I know about the game when I was at Discoveries.
I mean, yeah, that's crazy to hear. I mean, that's almost he took coach you almost about what 10, 11 years ago, and he's still showing that support for you. So that's incredible to see right there. But now looking ahead to you committed to Clemson early. You were about 15, and then you obviously signed. It took a couple of years. So that moment finally came. You signed with it, but then you got to Clemson, and it was your first season there. When you're playing college soccer, you're with the best of the best. I mean, everyone is just as good as you, or maybe even better, especially when you come in out as a freshman. So how did you have that mindset to be able to be confident in yourself despite being around so many talented players?
Yeah, 100%. I knew when coming to Clemson, I knew I was going to be up against some very good players. I came from Charlotte Soccer Academy, but Clemson had a lot of internationals, players who come from MLS Pro academies, and so I knew when I was coming in, I kind of had this unshakable self belief about myself that it doesn't matter where anyone's coming from, that I'm going to focus on myself and I'm going to try and work on being the best version of myself. So coming in as a freshman, I'm just trying to be the best version of myself. And I realized that, you come from a club where you're the guy, you're coming onto a top D1 team where there's a bunch of people who are the guy. So it's about being, humble and, being coachable and, trusting the process and, trying to develop within the system. And so I had to learn those things. And I think it paid off now. I'm going to continue doing that in the rest of my career.
Mhm. So you got your first start against USC Upstate. The game was what, 7-0, I want to say. But what was that moment like for you to go out there and start your first collegiate soccer game?
Yeah, it was a great moment. Not just to start my first college soccer game, but it kind of showed to me that the coaches believed in me as a player and they saw the talent, that I had. And so it's very, good, a good feeling to have as a player, especially playing on a team with 32 players that, the coach can see you working into his team and he see the potential that, I had. And I was a freshman and, I had a lot of things to learn. I was definitely, had a lot of things to work on, but, just to be able to get my first start, the coach saw something in me that, that felt really good.
And then looking at your second year, your sophomore year, Clemson won the ACC tournament that season and won the championship. So what was it like being crowned the ACC championship? Because as you mentioned, the ACC is probably one, if it's not the best, is one of the best soccer conferences in college.
Yeah, that was definitely an amazing feeling. I mean, a lot of people say that winning the ACC tournament is almost as hard as winning the national championship because you have literally the best teams, in the nation from the ACC playing for the tournament. And to be able to win that tournament, not only winning the championship, but to do it in COVID, which was something extremely hard. It was just a great feeling, and that's what really helped us, get across the finish line because we were being pretty vigilant about it, and we kept guys healthy and some other teams they were missing players out because they were getting sick. So we had to make a lot of sacrifices that year to really get what we wanted. And when we got the championship, it was a really good feeling.
Yeah, you mentioned COVID yourself with this season. That was obviously crazy. No one knew what was happening. It was like the world flipped upside down. Obviously, there was a bunch of testing going on. But how are you able to not lose confidence in yourself despite it being so hard to kind of get out there and play even?
Yeah, so actually, COVID is, I'm kind of thankful for the COVID year because that's what really made me find my appreciation for the game again. Coming in as a freshman, I didn't play that many games. I was on the bench a lot. I was having to watch and learn and, really stay down. And that COVID summer, I put in a lot of work, really started working on myself, found that love for the game again. And, playing that sophomore year, during the COVID times, it really, helped me to become the player that I am. And so I'm a little bit thankful for, I mean, not thankful for COVID, but it's definitely taught me a lot of things. It's made me grow as a person. So there's definitely some good things that could have come out of the COVID era.
Mhm. And during that year, you beat at the time, I guess, two number one teams. You beat Wake Forest at historic Riggs Field 2-1, and then you beat Pittsburgh 2-1 as well. So you knocked off, at the time, the best teams, in college soccer. So were those games like?
Those were crazy games. Playing against Wake, it's always a good game when we play Wake. They're a very good team. We have a lot of respect for Wake. I'd probably say whenever we play against Wake, it's always a close game. So, Clemson versus Wake, it's a game that we're definitely always up for. And to be able to beat them at home in front of our fans, it was an amazing feeling. And then we play against Pitt. That was in the spring of my sophomore year. That was a crazy game too because that was the automatic qualifier to go to the NCAA tournament. And so when we played against Pitt, we had our game plan. We had to switch up the formation a little bit because, as you mentioned before, we lost those three players to the draft. And I found myself playing left center mid that game, which is a little bit out of position, but we ended up getting the win, which is amazing. Playing against the number one seed and getting the dub at home, it's always a great feeling.
Mhm. Well, you mentioned, so I didn't actually know that. So you lost those three players before the tournament. So I guess usually how it happens is the tournament's played almost still in the fall, winter season, but with COVID, it pushed it to the spring. So was it difficult trying to refigure out the team before the tournament after losing guys that should be on the team?
Yeah, that was definitely our biggest challenge that season. And I came into Clemson actually as a recruited left back. So my freshman year and the first part of my sophomore year, I was playing left back. But when we lost all those players, I had to, I got moved up to the front line. So that sophomore spring, after all the other guys left, I was playing left wing. And that one game I played left center mid, but we had to adjust players. People who played center mid, they're playing right wing. I was a left back. I got moved to left wing. So we kind of had to toy around with the team a little bit, to really get what we wanted. And we ended up winning the automatic qualifier. And even though we came up short in the Sweet 16, I'd still say it was a pretty successful season for us.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's crazy though. Did like anyone feel a little bit slighted that they weren't allowed to participate in that tournament?
And NCAA or ACC?
NCAA, just because it's like, or not slighted because obviously all teams had to face that, but were they kind of upset that it wasn't happening right after where they could all be a part of it?
Yeah, that was definitely a big thing all about college soccer. That players who were drafted, they couldn't be able to participate, and some players ended up staying. Like Justin Malou, he got drafted, but he ended up staying to try and play in the national championship game, and he ended up staying another semester in the fall. So it definitely worked out for him getting to stay another year because he got to win the Natty. But other players who couldn't, stay, that was definitely a problem for a lot of college teams all the way across the board that they lost a lot of key players.
Mhm. Well, now looking ahead to next year, or I guess this coming fall, Clemson had 6 players get drafted, 12 are all on like MLS teams. That's incredible to see. I mean, it's awesome seeing your teammates go and play at the next level. But how can Clemson adjust to the losses of those guys and make another run this year?
Yeah, I think something that's extremely unique is that we're the only team in the nation that can say that we're gonna, we can go back to back national champions. And I think that this spring, what we've been doing this spring is preparing us to be able to try and do it again. We lost a lot of players. Roster is not as big as it was before this spring, but this spring we've been building the foundation. Having other people step up into leadership roles, including myself. Really trying to fill some of those roles that George and James and Oscar did, and really make sure that the Clemson standard stays the same. And when the freshmen and all the new guys come in the summer, we have I think 11, maybe 12 guys coming in to fill those roles. We're going to need to teach them the standard as well. So I think it's about as one guy always says, Bill Bessick, he says, win again, win better, and win with class. So everything that we did last year, let's see if we can win again, win better than we did last year, and win with class. So that's definitely what we're gonna try and do this fall. Try and not repeat, but do it at the same level or even a higher level than we did before.
Yeah, well, that's a great quote, right? Great quote right there. I definitely appreciate hearing that. That's really cool to hear. But you mentioned you need to step in as a leader and kind of grow into that leadership role. So, how can you become that leader in the locker room, and just in general, how are you trying to work on growing as a player?
Yeah, so this spring, that's what I've really been working on. Getting a little bit uncomfortable, and holding people accountable, and making sure that the standard stays the same. Because this fall season, it's up to players like me, Enrique Montana, Ben Erkins, some of the older guys on the team. With 12 guys leaving, some people need to step up and get uncomfortable and make sure that Clemson stays on top. And so this spring, that's what we've really been working on. Really working on our leadership skills, coming together as a group, establishing the standard and our core values and what we really want to accomplish. So that when the freshmen, the new guys come in the summer, that it's going to be a smooth transition and all 32 of us can be on the same page going into the fall.
Mhm. Well, moving on from soccer, I saw that you have a brand, Trip or Skip. So, what's that all about?
So during the COVID times, I kind of got a little bored. I started getting on TikTok a little bit. So I kind of got on TikTok. And after the season of my sophomore spring, I started really getting into TikTok, making videos. And I was like, you know what? I might like make a little series, just like really fun. And so I made Drip or Skip. where I basically rate people's soccer uniforms and say if it's like a drip or a skip. And so I kind of started having fun with it, and it kind of caught a lot of ground because I would say like to be entered, you have to follow me on TikTok and Instagram and DM me a pic and say like I want you to rate me for the video. And so I take it and make the video, and it kind of started catching on to the point where I even made my own merch, some dripper skip T-shirts, and they started selling. Thanks to NIL, I was able to do that. But yeah, I'm just still having fun with it, making videos here and there. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I might have to check that out. Maybe. So, do you think wearing the cowboy hat and going for the whole cowboy look is drip or skip?
I'm gonna say it's drip. I got to tap into my Carolina roots a little bit. So definitely drip for sure.
Yeah. So, why do you always wear the cowboy hat? Why'd you just decide to go for that look?
It was something new. I kind of wanted to be like a statement as a like a turn the page. A lot of people don't know this, but my freshman year, especially my freshman year, a little bit on my sophomore year, I was a really nervous player. And so, like I mentioned before, the coach saw the potential in me, but when I'm playing games, I'd be so nervous. Sometimes I'd be a little bit timid. And so when I came back my junior year, I was kind of like, you know what, like I got the dripper skip going. Like I want to look confident, as a player coming in. That's like kind of my persona now. I'm a confident player, and so I got the cowboy hat, the boots, and it kind of became a part of me. Me and Ben Erkins kind of did it together as like the Carolina boys, walking up to the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they say confidence is key. So that's great that you kind of, you got your swagger back in a way. So before I let you go, is that a trophy in the back on the windowsill right there?
Oh yeah, uh, this is the a little replica of the national championship trophy. They gave each player a mini trophy, so got this one. And then also from the ACC Championship in 2020, they also gave us a little mini replica trophy as well. So yeah, pretty cool thing to give it to us.
Yeah, those are sweet. Did you ever get one for being offensive player of the tournament, or do they just say you are one and don't give you a trophy for that?
Yeah, I got a not I didn't get a trophy, but I got a plaque. They gave it to me at the ceremony that was last week. So me and George, we got a plaque for being offensive and defensive MVP.
Well, that's awesome to hear. Well, Isaiah, I appreciate you coming on. Do you have any final statements you want to make to the Clemson fans or just in general?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all the Clemson fans, everyone who supported us. We couldn't have done it without you guys. Just all the fans and people who packed the stadiums for the games, all the people who follow us on social media, support us, and post about us. It really means a whole lot. And I'm gonna tell you guys right now that I'm gonna, the team right now, we're gonna do our best effort to make sure that Clemson soccer stays on top and try and go back to back for the Natty. So I just want to say thank you to all the fans and everyone who supports us.